Hi. A few months ago I posted a first review video of our new Auto Trail V-Line motorhome. One of the major issues was the sighting of the rear view camera. It was mounted adjacent to the high level brake light unit on a backward sloping face of the bodywork. This gave a wonderful view of the tops of the rear window and the gutter, but not the bumper area or much of the road to the rear of the van. In fact, it was pretty useless. In the review, I had modified the camera mount by extending out and making it sit nearer to vertical. This was a great improvement, but it still did not look quite right, and it was not adjustable. So, in this video I will explain a redesign which performs well, is adjustable and looks neater. First off, a disclaimer. Access to the rear nut that secures the camera in the original position is not easy and may require some ingenuity with the tools you have available to you. Thereafter, it's all pretty simple. But please don't attempt this if you're not 100% confident with your DIY skills. If you decide to proceed after you have viewed the video, you first need to gain access from the inside of the van by removal of the rectangular vertical panel above the doors. The screws are disguised by sticky tabs to camouflage the screw positions. These are used throughout the van, and I have found the best way to lift them is by using a 1-inch wood chisel flat on the surface and gently rock side to side in a light sliding motion. These can be retained for reuse, although I'm not personally keen on these tabs anyway, and I tend to use plastic caps when I replace the panel. After removal of some insulation, you should be able to disconnect the camera cable at the smallest connector that will pass through the hole when the camera is removed. There is a large connector and lots of excess cable in series which will not pass through the hole, so and the small connector is quite easily overlooked. To make it easier to get to the rear split nut, for better visibility, I remove the high level rear brake light unit and the rectangular boss that it screws onto at the right hand end. You should then be able to fit an 8mm open-ended spanner onto the nut from the brake light hole. It is fiddly and you will only be able to move it a fraction at a time, but it is possible with perseverance, because I've done it. Now comes the hardish part. The camera is also stuck to the plastic plate that itself is stuck to the body with self-adhesive pads. So having removed the nut, you've still got to release the camera. I protected the camera with masking tape, gripped it with a pair of mole grips dangling down, and just gently eased it sideways to release the self-adhesive pads. A little heat from a heat gun might help to soften the adhesive, but don't get it too hot or you'll damage the paintwork and maybe the camera. Once the camera is free, you can pull the cable through the hole and open up the hole to 10.5mm diameter so that a larger hollow bush can be installed to hold the bracket. Then you can clean up all the sticky stuff that might remain. Thereafter, it's a case of making a new bracket and cover, finding or buying a 10mm hollow bush and reassembling it all back onto the van. I have sketched out a diagram of what's basically required, so if you pause, print screen and paste it into a document, you may be able to refer to it later. I will see if I can include a link below, but I'm not that great with the technology yet, so it might not happen. Regarding the extra parts that I used, I'm a bit of a junk collector, a bit of a womble. So I had 10mm diameter stainless steel bush, which was something like that. Oh, although I did use a smaller one, like that. I had some 1.6 thick aluminium alloy. To make the cover, I had some 3mm thick self-coloured ABS sheet scraps that I saved from the case of a broken flat screen TV. I knew they'd come in handy one day, much to my partner's dismay. My garage is full of junk. I should imagine a lighting shop, quality ironmongers may have bushing, but if you know someone with a lathe, it would be fairly easy to drill out a 10mm bolt. After you've shaped the aluminium alloy for the bracket and drill the holes, you will need to anneal it prior to bending. Otherwise it will crack along the bend line. If you are not familiar with this process, it is quite simple. You rub some bar soap along the bend area and heat it with a blowtorch until that bend line turns black, and then take the heat away quickly. Try it on some scrap first. Of course, you could also use some steel sheet, but this would need to be rust-proof and painted, or stainless steel if you can work it okay. The tab with the larger hole needs to be overbent by 15 degrees to accommodate the shape of the back of the van. When I reassembled the bracket to the van and the camera to the bracket, I used foam sticky pads and sealant anywhere that water may gain access. The cable just passes through the hollow bush and connects inside the van. This means that the camera can be removed in the future without disturbing the bracket or the brake light unit. As well as the sealant at the rear of the camera bush, I also slipped on some heat shrink sleeving after it was secured to the bracket. The cover, not essential, but it does look the part and adds a little more weather protection. I'm sure that you can buy ABS or polystyrene sheet from model shops or other art supplies, but nearly every electrical unit is made of this stuff, and there is a colossal amount of scrap out there. Repair, reuse, replace. I just planed a length of softwood to the approximate shape and bent the stuff over that wooden former after heating it with a heat gun. When it's cooled, you can shape it to fit the bracket that you've made. I glued 2 small strips along the bottom edge to act as clips, because it is quite flexible when you've made it. You can just spring it apart and pop it over the bottom of the bracket. My partner Heather and I are so pleased with the results that I felt I must share this video. It's one design issue that really ticked me off. So unnecessary, would have cost pence for Auto Trail to have sorted it out in the first place. You can now see the road, the vehicles behind, as well as the bottom rubber buffers at the sides of the van. The night vision is not great, so in the future I'll look into fitting some bright LED lights at the buffer area connected to the reversing lights. Maybe. Watch this space.